John Creasy arrives in Mexico City, where wealthy families rely on bodyguards to protect their children. Creasy is introduced as a man who has seen too much. He drinks heavily, barely speaks, and carries deep emotional scars from his violent past. His old friend Rayburn offers him a job as a bodyguard for the daughter of a wealthy couple. He explains that kidnappings are rapidly increasing in the area, and with Creasy's skills, he could earn a decent amount of money. At first, Creasy refuses. He believes he has nothing left to give and doubts himself because of his fragile state. But with no real direction and nowhere else to go, he eventually gives in and accepts the offer. Soon after, he meets Samuel Ramos and drives him home. During the ride, Samuel carefully reviews Creasy's resume and is clearly impressed. 16 years in the military, backed by extensive counterterrorism experience, proving that despite his condition, Creasy is more than qualified for the job. Creasy arrives at Samuel's mansion and is immediately greeted by Samuel's wife, Lisa Ramos. She welcomes him with a warm smile and offers him a drink. They then introduce him to their daughter, Peta, cheerful, talkative, and full of life, the complete opposite of him. Peta excitedly shows him his room. When she returns to her mother, her happiness is clear, smiling at the thought of having a new bodyguard, maybe even a friend. She even names her teddy bear Creasy Bear. At his first day, Creasy keeps his distance to Peta, doing only what's necessary. He avoids conversation and remains cold, but Peta being so cheerful and is excited to be a friend of him. Peta keeps talking to him, asking so many questions, trying to understand him. After school, Peta doesn't give up. She keeps asking questions, trying to befriend Creasy, but he makes it clear he's not her friend and is only there to do his job. Hurt by his words, Peta quietly moves to the back seat of the car. Later that night, overwhelmed by his inner demons, Creasy tries to take his own life. Sitting alone with a gun, he pulls the trigger, but it doesn't fire. Shaken and confused, he takes it as a sign and calls his friend Rayburn, who listens and offers words of comfort, helping him find a sense of relief. The next day, Peta becomes cold toward Creasy, and the car ride is filled with silence. While driving, Creasy notices a car that seems to be following them. He borrows a pencil from Peta and writes down the plate number, while Peta quietly writes it down as well. But after a while, the suspicious car simply passes them. When they arrive at school, Creasy tries to return Peta's pencil, but she refuses to take it back and tells him that she has another one. During her swimming practice, Creasy notices how much Peta is struggling. For the first time, he approaches her and starts a conversation. He gives her advice that could help improve her swimming. On their way home, Creasy's attitude toward Peta begins to change. He suddenly becomes interested in talking to her and even continues giving her swimming tips. When they get home, the conversation continues, and the bond between them slowly starts to grow. For Peta, it feels amazing to finally become friends with Creasy. Creasy and Peta becomes friends eventually. He sees her determination as she struggles to improve her time, so he started training her, pushing her to be stronger. He even helps her with her assignment, which brings them closer to each other. Peta becomes his reason to live. He continued training Peta with her reflexes, making her ready for the upcoming swimming competition at school. Over time, Peta improves while Creasy begins to smile again. He laughs. He starts caring. For the first time in years, he feels human. From that point on, Creasy begins to change. He drinks less, he becomes more present, and most importantly, he becomes deeply protective of Peta. The swimming competition arrives, and all their training pays off. Peta dominates the event and wins first place. Afterward, they celebrate with Rayburn and his wife, and Peta gives Creasy a teddy bear with a pendant inside. From that moment on, their bond grows stronger. On a peaceful day, while heading to Peta's piano lesson, the two spend the ride sharing stories with each other. Creasy, once broken and emotionally distant, has finally begun to rediscover happiness and a reason to keep living. When they arrive, Peta hands him a flower before walking inside. Moments later, something feels off. Police cars begin arriving one by one, silently surrounding the area, and the atmosphere grows tense. As Peta is about to come out, Creasy senses the danger and tries to warn her. But it's too late. The attackers reveal themselves, and a violent shootout erupts. Creasy fights back, taking down several men, but he's quickly overwhelmed and shot multiple times. Peta runs, terrified and confused, but turns back for Creasy in a desperate attempt to help him. When she reaches him, she's dragged away by the kidnappers, screaming his name as they force her into a car. Bleeding and powerless, Creasy collapses on the street, watching helplessly as the car speeds away with PETA inside. Creasy barely survives and is rushed to the hospital, but instead of being treated as a victim, he's framed by the police as the man behind the kidnapping. They even celebrate his arrest, while the officers he killed are declared heroes. During a press conference, the police announce Creasy's capture, but a journalist challenges the chief, pointing out that the officers involved were off duty. The chief avoids the question and quickly moves on to another reporter. Meanwhile, the police coordinate with PETA's parents, set up surveillance at their home, and wait for the kidnapper's call. It comes shortly after, and they speak to Mr. Ramos, demanding a $10 million ransom and warning that PETA will be harmed if he doesn't follow their instructions. Mr. Ramos complies, leaving the money in the trunk of an abandoned car in a dark alley. Another car arrives to collect it, but the police intervene, triggering a shootout in which the kidnapper's nephew is killed. Later, the kidnapper calls again, not to renegotiate, but to warn them of the consequences of his nephew's death. Lisa talks to the kidnapper and tries to renegotiate the deal herself, but it is already too late. The kidnapper has made up his mind. PETA's life in exchange for the life of his nephew. After saying his decision, he suddenly drops the call. Furious over the police's negligence, Lisa angrily orders everyone to leave. Meanwhile, Samuel just sits there in silence, still unable to process everything that has happened. 2 days after the kidnapping, Creasy wakes up and immediately asks for PETA, but he's too badly wounded to do anything. He can barely move. Manzano decides to take Creasy to a safe house. Rayburn arrives, and Manzano explains the danger of Creasy's situation to him. Together, they help Creasy escape from the hospital and bring him to a safe place where he can recover. Once he's able to speak, Creasy asks about PETA, and Rayburn tells him the devastating news. She's dead. The words hit him like a bomb. The one who gave him a reason to live is gone. While still in bed, Manzano visits Creasy and asks if he can recognize any of the kidnappers. He shows him several faces, but Creasy can't identify any of them. Manzano then shares what he knows, that the kidnapping is part of a larger, organized network called La Hermandad, made up of corrupt police officers, criminals, and powerful figures all connected. Once he's able to walk, the first thing he does is return to the place where PETA was taken. He reenacts the incident, trying to piece together what really happened. There, he meets Mariana Garcia, a journalist from Reforma, who is also trying to expose the syndicate. She offers to help in exchange for everything he knows, but Creasy refuses. He has his own plan. He then goes to the Ramos mansion to collect his things. Lisa arrives and asks what he plans to do next. In a cold, steady voice, Creasy tells her he'll do what he does best. He promises her that he will kill them all, and that no one involved in PETA's death will be spared. Creasy begins tracking down everyone involved in PETA's kidnapping. He asks for Garcia's help to find the address of the car used in the ambush, using the plate number he remembers. Garcia works with Manzano, and they quickly identify the owner. Creasy traces the address, which leads him to a man named Jorge Gonzalez. He takes him to a secluded place and, using brutal methods, forces him to talk, cutting off his fingers one by one until he gets the answers he wants. Overwhelmed by pain, Jorge reveals everything. He says he was only tasked with kidnapping PETA and delivering her to the Guardians, the ones responsible for hiding her. He also mentions their leader, known as The Voice. After getting what he needs, Creasy lights Jorge a cigarette and ends his life. The next night, Creasy tracks down a man known as The Butcher at a club where he works. As soon as he enters, Creasy pulls a gun on him and forces him into a back room, where 2 other accomplices are waiting. He questions all 3 about PETA, but no one talks. So to make a point, Creasy kills The Butcher, forcing the others to take him seriously. He separates the remaining 2 and blindfolds them. One of them resists at first, but eventually breaks and reveals everything he knows. From him, Creasy learns about another man involved, a crooked cop named Fuentes, who stole the ransom money that was supposed to save PETA. After getting the information, Creasy kills him. He then interrogates the woman. Terrified of meeting the same fate, she cooperates and claims she can take him to the girl. Creasy is shocked, barely able to believe it, but when they arrive, it turns out to be a different child. He rescues the girl, spares the woman, but burns the club down. Before leaving, Creasy gives Garcia a card and asks her to trace its recent transactions to find where the payments to the Guardians are coming from. The next day, Creasy ambushes the convoy of a corrupt officer named Fuentes, the man responsible for losing the ransom money meant for Pita's freedom. From a nearby building, he fires an RPG, disabling the convoy. He captures Fuentes and hijacks his car, but instead of killing him immediately, Creasy forces him to talk. Bit by bit, the truth comes out. The kidnapping wasn't random, it was carefully planned, and someone close to Pita's family is involved. Fuentes also reveals that the ransom they recovered was only $2.5 million, suggesting the money may have been switched by Jordan, Mr. Ramos's attorney. He begs for his life, but Creasy doesn't listen. As he slowly walks away, the bomb erupts behind him in a deafening explosion. Creasy finally gets closer to the truth. He goes to Jordan's house, but the only thing he finds is his decapitated body floating in the pool. With no answers there, he heads straight to Jordan's office, where he feeds a document into the fax machine and uncovers a series of transactions from Jordan's account, including a $2.5 million transfer from Samuel Ramos. Realizing what it means, Creasy confronts Samuel and Lisa, demanding to know the truth, and angrily asks Lisa if she was also involved in Pita's kidnapping. That's when he discovers Samuel had been hiding serious financial troubles and had connections to the kidnapping. In a desperate attempt to fix his problems, Samuel indirectly allowed it to happen. But things spiraled out of control, and Pita became a victim of something far bigger than he ever intended. Creasy then gives Samuel a single bullet, the same one that failed when he once tried to take his own life, and leaves his gun behind. As he walks out of the house, a gunshot suddenly echoes. Moments later, Lisa rushes inside and finds Samuel Ramos lying lifeless on the floor. With the help of Garcia, Creasy tracks down the location of the man known as The Voice. He goes to the address, but just as he arrives, a man suddenly shoots him from outside. The shooter tries to escape, but despite his wounds, Creasy quickly catches him. Along with a nearby woman, Creasy interrogates them both and uncovers the truth. The real name of The Voice is Daniel Rosas Santos. The man who shot him is Daniel's brother, Aurelio Sanchez, and the pregnant woman is Reina Sanchez, Daniel's wife. Creasy forces Daniel to surrender himself in exchange for the lives of his brother and wife. To threaten him and prove he is serious, Creasy grabs Aurelio and shoots his hand, blowing it apart. Aurelio screams in agony as Creasy waits for Daniel's response. But knowing that someone is already tracing the call, Daniel quickly ends it before they can track his location. The phone rings again, and Creasy answers as Daniel speaks nervously on the other end. Creasy is ready to end it all. But then Daniel offers a deal, his life in exchange for the girl. Creasy freezes, confused and full of doubt, because he believes she's already gone. He questions him, then asks the only thing that could prove the truth. What's the name of her bear? After a brief pause, Daniel answers, Creasy Bear. In that instant, everything changes. Creasy realizes she's alive, and without hesitation he agrees to the deal, giving up his life in exchange for hers. Creasy calls Lisa, his voice weak but urgent, telling her that Pita might still be alive and that he needs her help to bring her home, so they agree to meet. When they arrive, Creasy slowly walks forward, his body barely holding on, his eyes locked ahead, and then the car door opens. Pita steps out, alive and unharmed. Creasy freezes, unable to believe what he's seeing, as relief washes over him, replacing all the pain and anger he's carried. Pita runs toward him, calling out with pure joy, but Creasy gently stops her, saying goodbye in the only way he can, handing back her journal. Confused but emotional, Pita takes it before running back to her mother, while Aurelio also retreats to his group. Bleeding and exhausted, Creasy turns and walks toward the syndicate, accepting his fate as they search him and take him into their car. As it drives away, Creasy leans back, his strength finally giving out, and slowly, quietly, he dies.